Hey folks, hope you're all doing well. So, what I want to talk today about is some of the common mistakes I see my students make when it comes to starting an Amazon FBA business. And I want to share them with you so hopefully you don't make them, or at least you know to, you know, look in on them and to make sure you're not making these mistakes, right? So, let's start with product selection, right? So a lot of times when I jump on the onboarding calls that we have with students, that I have with students, people seem to think that, well, two things, right? Number one, they seem to think, and I actually just thought of a new one. I have a list in front of me, but I actually thought of a new one when I was saying this. First of all, they seem to think that they need to pick a product based on their personal interest. Um, that is not the case. You don't need to love your products, right? This is my very first product. I don't know if you can see it there. It's a dog whistle, right? That was my very first product. Now I like dogs. Don't get me wrong. I've had my fair share of dogs over the past, 15 years. But I don't love dog whistles, right? In fact, I know very little about them. Okay, I just seen a market opportunity, right? And I think that's what's key. You need to concentrate on finding an opportunity in the market that you can fulfill, not something that you need to really love, right? You need to love the process of selling on Amazon. You need to love what it means for you in your life, the freedom that potentially it will give you. But you don't necessarily need to love your product. Now, you can love your product. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'd rather follow the data. So if I can find an opportunity in the marketplace that I can tap into and sell to people and do that well and give them a really good experience in terms of, a quality product and make, money doing that, that's great. But if I'm looking for something that I love, then I'm maybe a bit blinded and then I'm liable to make a mistake. And therefore, I'm more likely to not achieve my ultimate goal, or perhaps my ultimate goal, which is, to build a successful Amazon FBA business. So just bear that in mind. Follow what the market tells you, what the data tells you, not necessarily what you want to sell. Okay. They may be the same, but they may not. Another thing that I just thought of is that, and I've had quite a few people join the program from Ireland. Now, not everyone's from Ireland. Don't get me wrong, plenty of people in the UK and actually beyond in the program, but Ireland or Irish people, what I find is I have a lot of people say, I'm looking at the Irish market. My advice to you is don't look at the Irish market. The Irish market is extremely small. Yes, some of my products do end up in Ireland. I've looked through the my order, manage order reports, and I've seen that some of the items have been delivered to Ireland and other markets in the EU, right? I've seen that. I saw that rather. Seen. I've saw that. So, oh, right. That happening, right? But I built my product for the market demand in the UK or in the US or wherever, but let's say the UK in this case. I've built it because I'm like, there's a marketplace opportunity in the UK. Now, if there is some overlap with Ireland and people from Ireland buy that product, brilliant. But I'm not going to create a product that only Irish people are going to want because it's basically saying I'm going to create a product that just people in Birmingham are going to buy, right? There's a lot of people in Birmingham, but there's a lot more people in the UK. So my advice to you is build something for the larger market, get a small bit of that market share, or maybe more, maybe get a large part of it, which will be worth a lot more than all of the Irish markets. That's just worth bearing in mind. Please concentrate on the bigger markets, right? And that doesn't just be the UK. That can be the US. That can also be Germany, or France, or any of these other large European markets. But for by and large, if you're English speaking, I'd recommend the UK as your first market. There is going to be some sales going into Europe from there at the moment, at time of recording. And then I would also recommend the US or Canada as additional markets you can go into with Amazon FBA. So let me see now what else. Um, yeah, I've seen some people again not checking competition levels. So again, that comes into the market. You need to look, make sure there's an opportunity for you to stand out, and you can stand out in terms of like a better listing, in terms of creative, in terms of copy, better product, in terms of how it's built, or maybe like a bonus item, better fulfillment. All these kind of things are ways you can stand out. So you want to look at your competition, see what they're offering in terms of pricing, but also in terms of like all those things I've just mentioned, and just check, can you actually make a better overall offer? And you can maybe just improve one of them, or maybe you can improve them all. The more then that you can improve versus the competition, the more likely your product is to be a success. People often just say, "Oh, I seen there was a lot of sales, so I just bought this item. I just bought it in Alibaba. I got it shipped over." Like you need to concentrate on, being distinctive in the marketplace, and that means you need to, well, definitely 100%, you need to create a brand. You need to brand your item. You need to get really good creative. You need to do all this sort of stuff. So see people just trying to rush ahead. So just slow down, look at the market, find out where you can stand out and build it slowly. And it's I had someone today on a call with me, and they said, Amazon is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And they're 100% right. And if you're listening to this, thank you. 100%, it's a marathon. So just take your time, get this right, okay? And so people sometimes, when they're trying to choose their supplier as well, they don't go with necessarily the highest quality. They go with who's the cheapest. Now, if you're dealing with China, which more than likely you will be, you need to think about what are they looking for in the relationship. So what they're looking for is a long-term partnership with repeat custom. Like that's generally what the Chinese supplier always wants. That's what they kind of look for. That's what they kind of push for, right? If you push for the cheapest price, they will give it to you, right? But first of all, there's two things that could happen. Number one, the product will be inferior because more than likely, in order to give you that cheaper price, and they build it cheap, so they don't put in the same quality. They have different smaller thicknesses, and they use inferior components. And when the product reaches the final customer, they'll likely notice, and you'll end up getting returns and negative reviews. We're looking to build a business for the long haul. We're looking to build a product and a listing on Amazon that will last for the long haul. And the best way of doing that is to invest in a quality product. I was ordering a product a number of months ago, and that product is selling really well now. But when the supplier asked me, should we use, there was an axle involved in an axle, right? Should we use a hollow axle or should we use a solid axle? The solid axle was more expensive. To be honest with you, I didn't realize this was the case, but I went for the solid one because I figured that's going to be a higher quality product for the consumer. And we've received lots of reviews on the product, all stating that's a solid axle, unlike the hollow one of competitors. Therein lies what you need to be doing. You need to be always thinking of the consumer, and therefore you need to be trying to build the best product you can. And by thinking of that and building the best product you can, you are far more likely to get positive reviews, right? Now, the other thing that happens if you push suppliers for the lowest price, apart from getting an inferior product, you end up with suppliers that are just like, this person doesn't care about me. It's very one way. I'm giving them a really low price. I'm not making a lot of money. Is this relationship really worth it? So my advice to you is think of them. They're looking for that, as I said, that long-term relationship and repeat business, but they have to make money. And I find if you mention to the supplier that you're considering their needs, you are likely to get a better response. So we bargain hard as well. Like, don't get me wrong, in my business, we do strive to get the best value for us, so we can actually have the best value products, ultimately for our consumers, and make more money as well. And we were negotiating with a supplier, maybe we negotiated a little bit too hard, and the supplier said, look, the cost is really low, but just I will give it to you at this price just to honor, just for chance for repeat business, because we bought this off the supplier a number of times. And I remember I just I said, I don't feel it's a fair price. Maybe I'm wrong, but I went back to the supplier and I said, look, what is a fair price? What would you like to see? They told me, and it was a little bit more expensive. We're talking 10, 15 cent a unit or whatever, right? And I just said, look, we'll go with that price, right? We've still to organize that order, but I said, look, we'll go with that price, right? And what that means is that they now know that we're not always just about price. We're about making sure that they're happy too. It's definitely a two-way relationship. I think that's what everything's been built on, is that, like, two-way, you give us a really good product, we'll, make sure you're looked after as well. And it's a win-win for everyone, right? So that's pretty important. Again, coming on to suppliers, I see people all the time and they don't order samples. I kind of touched on this earlier on. Like, they just order this, 1,000 units of this item, right? And get it in, right? And they don't order samples. Like, how can you know if that product's going to be good or bad? Like, to me, that is gambling. Like, there's nearly no product I wouldn't order a sample of. You just need to check it out. And you might think, but that's the same as every other item. It's not. Like, every supplier is different. Like, I've seen so many things that you wouldn't even think about. And, if you don't order a sample, you won't know about it and you won't be able to rectify it. And if you don't get the sample, right, as per the finished consumer product, which I'm now really advocating for, as far in as possible and so far as possible, when the product gets to Amazon, the problems will come to light then, and it could end up costing you a lot more. One time we had a product, and it was an oversized product, and there was a problem with the packaging. Right, the product was good, but the packaging the supplier built was pretty poor, and it was inside a master carton getting shipped to the UK. When it got to Amazon, they took it out of that master carton, and that's when it all started going wrong. The carton literally disintegrated, right? Now, I kind of know why they did it that way because it was much easier to pack. But the problem was for us, it actually ended up costing, I think, nearly £5,000 to get rectified. Um, and because of that, we actually didn't make any order on that shipment. Now, luckily enough, the profit was so good in that product that, it's basically covered all that, but still, um, it wasn't good, right? So it's just, if you get the final item and you receive it as it would be shipped, right? You can check that out in advance. And also, like, bear in mind, like, a lot of suppliers, they don't necessarily know all Amazon's rules. So you need to be just very watchful and make sure everything's done exactly right. And one thing we're actually looking at doing now, and for a lot of products, is, especially for the initial order, is actually getting a third party person to inspect or company just to make sure everything's okay in China before the product is shipped out. That would have saved us £5,000, and the cost of that is about $250. So just bear that in mind, right? Again, also, I think that it's overlooking, like, costs, potential costs. So just when you're calculating, whether your product is viable or not, try to get accurate costs insofar as possible and include them. And if you can't get the exact accurate costs, overestimate the charge, because there's no point you bringing an item and you're not making any money, unless you want to just learn the process. I'd rather learn the process and make money. So just bear that in mind, okay? Um, the final thing I really want to touch on is, whilst it's in your listing, right? So first of all, not optimizing your keywords, search terms. Look, if you don't optimize, you are basically leaving money on the table because Amazon doesn't know to show your product to people. So please optimize, right? And poor images. Again, people use supplier supplied images. Don't do that. I always tell people, do not do that. First of all, you don't know where your supplier got those images from. They could have got them from a client they sold the product to, say, for example, in the US. Then you discover that they own the patents, the trademarks, all that stuff on those images. They're their images, basically, and you're using them without permission. So don't use any supplier's images. I remember a supplier, I asked for images of a product. They sent them to me, and it turns out, I says, like, whose are these images? Who owns them? And they said, oh, they found out, and there's like this company in the US. And it's like, we can't use these. Not that I wanted to, I only wanted them temporarily, as our creative team was organizing images, but still, we can't use these, right? So don't use supplier images, right? Get your own quality images made either in-house or outsource them to someone, but get quality images made of your product, okay? And the final thing, make sure all your listing copy is accurate, along with the images of the product described. Because people actually use that, lo and behold, to actually decide whether they're going to buy a product or not. So make sure all that is accurate. I once had a product, and it's actually going back to images, and there was a glitch and it was an Amazon glitch, and we couldn't get our images to update, right, on a variation listing. So it was showing the wrong product. There was like a different sizes, and it was showing the wrong one in the basically the image when people were buying it, and people were saying, "Oh, I'm receiving the wrong item," and no matter how long we emailed Amazon about it, like, they couldn't rectify it, and we eventually had to just split the listings again, so they weren't variation. But that shows you, if you have the wrong images up, you will get negative reviews pretty quick. So we don't want that. So please just make sure the images and the description and all that accurately reflects the product. So that's it. They're my points. If you want to learn this for yourself, if you're interested in actually just going deeper on all this stuff, we have like really good. I've just spent like last week putting this huge, like, basically like a Bible of Amazon, step 1, step 2, step 3, from the very beginning to the very end of the process, right? So you become a successful Amazon FBA seller. Like, I've went into a lot of detail, right? And I even have notes here, like, of things I need to keep adding to it, right? And people are loving it. So if you want to access to that, and also like join our coaching calls, and so many different things to help people actually do this as part of a small community and actually move this dream of yours forward, just go up to the link in my description or in this video or wherever you're watching this, and click there, and there's different ways we can work together. Also, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments, like, subscribe, all those cool things. And I'll be back very, very soon with another video for you guys in due course. All right, take care and chat soon. Bye.